we will start with a few introductions and then kind of dive into some of our conversation topics. So I will introduce myself first. So my name is Ben White. I am a stage 3 colon cancer survivor. I was active duty when I was diagnosed. I was a naval aviator in Jacksonville, stationed out of Jacksonville. I flew MH-60 Romeos. Diagnosed at 26. I'm happy to be 4 years cancer-free, but unfortunately, my treatment left me with some side effects that rendered me unsafe in the cockpit, and the Navy found me no longer fit for duty. So in my second life, I'm doing a lot of work in the cancer space. I've worked for both the cancer support community and American Cancer Society professionally, and done a whole lot of volunteer work for a bunch of other groups. And the one that my heart is closest to is the Colon Club, which is who we're here with tonight, who is sponsored and hosting this event. So that's me in a nutshell. Next up, we have introductions from Michael Carnell and Jennifer Keitering. Michael, you want to introduce yourself first, and then we'll jump over to Jennifer?
Sure. My name is Michael Carnell. I am a United States Marine. I was diagnosed in January of 2021 with stage 4 colon and liver cancer, and found out about the Colon Club and a couple other organizations due to just doing some research and trying to find out what's going on. And with myself and with this whole cancer thing, and obviously it was a culture shock in the beginning to go ahead and get diagnosed with this, but we've been battling ever since, trying to make sure we go ahead and find a way to go ahead and defeat it no matter what the doctors say. But I wanted to make sure that we did something for veterans. I know a couple of veterans that that are also dealing with cancer and stuff, and I think someone will either jump on here in a little bit or they'll be watching the video. But I want to try and find some way with the VA to help get the word out to the veterans we have about what options and benefits and stuff like that are available to them, because I didn't know, and to be honest with you, I still don't know. So I'm still trying to get a list of where to go, who to talk to, and things like that from the VA. And yeah, so that's my story.
Thank you, Michael. Jennifer, are you with us? Are you able to introduce yourself yet?
I am with you. I'm Jenny Keitering McCandless. I work for the Veterans Health Administration in oncology. Thanks for having me here.
Thank you for joining us. So the goal of tonight's webinar, or my thoughts for the agenda, we are going to start with kind of talking about some of the resources that are available to veterans. Jennifer's provided us with this whole list, and I have some slides that I can put on screen while we're talking about those. So we'll start with that. Then we will kind of get to some kind of open floor discussion. I will try not to moderate it too much. Hopefully this is a beneficial webinar where we are, sharing resources that are helpful. As Michael mentioned, navigating the military and VA system can be very challenging. Navigating it when you know what you're doing is challenging, and it's even harder just even understanding how it works. And there are a lot of resources available that a lot of people don't know about. There are a lot of resources available that can be very challenging to access, even though you do have a right to access them. So hopefully we can talk about a lot of those today. Share stories, give advice. I want to keep this webinar positive. I think we are all here, we're aware that there are probably a lot of things we could vent and be frustrated about, but I want to try and keep us away from doing too much of that. And we'll wrap up with a repeat of all the resources. So we're going to hit that at the front and the tail end. Jennifer, I can kind of throw some slides on screen. I have most of the resources you shared with me. I put them into a PowerPoint. Give me just a moment. And we can just kind of walk through what's available, if that's all right with you.
Sure, we'll figure it out together.
Yeah. I kind of just threw this PowerPoint together, but it should be mostly what you shared with me before the webinar.
Okay, great. So what I'm hearing a lot of, just from our brief interactions, is that there's issues with benefits, filing claims, finding out what services are available as you're kind of going through your cancer journey. And so some of these might be helpful to you. I think the main point of contact that is going to benefit you is the Veteran Benefit Administration. those are the folks that help with service connection, they help with claims, they can help with information regarding burial needs or questions for, preparing for different events that are going on. As far as the Veteran Health Administration, which is who I serve under, we help with in-home services and your general health care, facilitating and navigating you through the healthcare system, and then plugging you in wherever we can throughout the Department of Veteran Affairs. So the first link is for veterans, dependents, and survivors. This is a really great resource that has resources within resources, numbers and websites. And it can be daunting, I recognize that. And so just know that there are social workers out there just like me that would love the opportunity to serve you and talk to you, whether it's with your primary care team or with an outside oncology provider or a VA oncology provider. Travel. There is different types of travel that are available depending on your service connection or your income. So I encourage you to look at that and see. We have mileage reimbursement available for some. We have special mode transport, which is like medical transport. Even if you're ambulatory, you can use a service like that if you're not feeling well, if you're weak, if you administratively qualify. The VA Caregiver Support Program is we have a general caregiver support program, and then we have a comprehensive caregiver support program, and that's where you'll find the information laid out there. So this is new. This is some presumptive disability benefits that they're talking about incorporating. There are some already, both with the VA and with Social Security disability, that once you have been diagnosed with certain things or conditions, they automatically accept you as eligible. If you have questions about Agent Orange, or you have questions about the burn pit, what are you eligible? How do you walk through that? Blue water claims, that's what the next ones are about. Oh, and you know what? While we're talking about this, I just want to point out that there's a website. I don't think I gave it to you, Ben, but it's called Ask VA. I think it's ask.va.org. I might have given it in one of our planning meetings, but what you can do is ask certain questions, like a chat sort of, or an email. And we have Health Chat available, which is an app. We have Clinical Contact Center available 24/7. That's a nurse that's available. We have My Healthy Vet Secure Messages. There are so many pathways that you have available to reach out to one of us. And I am so thankful for the opportunity to tell you about that today.
Absolutely. I just shared that Ask VA in the chat. And also we are happy to share all of these. We're happy to email out anyone who's registered, email out this list of resources afterwards. So don't feel like you need to be scrambling to write down these URLs on screen. So yeah, we're happy to share those afterwards. We've got a few more. Give me just a second here. Yeah.
These are some resources for online support. I'll let Ben speak with the Cancer Support Committee and the Colon Club, of course. Cancer Care offers social workers to you. So if you can't find a social worker that's available to you in your community care, in your PACT, in your oncology care, they are there in cancer care as well, and living with cancer. So those are different support groups and support resources, not just for your emotional health, your physical health, but also financial assistance. Some of them have some resources where you can veer out and see how that can help you as you start to recover and go through the process and during your treatment even.
Yeah, and I can speak a bit to some of the other resources. Of course, the Colon Club. I presume that maybe many of you know who we are because you're here, but maybe you found this link through a friend or referred it and aren't familiar. So the Colon Club is a nonprofit that is focused on early onset colorectal cancer. We have an annual retreat and heavy emphasis on awareness and advocacy. Now, if you don't fall into that early onset colorectal cancer bucket, Colon Club is very well connected with a whole number of other nonprofits. We're happy to, point you in the right direction to somewhere that might be a great fit for finding support. But of course, we also work with all things colorectal cancer. And if you're not colorectal cancer specific, we're still happy to partner with you. So happy to see everyone here on this call. The cancer support community, I worked for them for a while before I went back to school, is a wonderful nonprofit. They have, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head how many locations they have now because I haven't worked for them for a few years, but around 100 locations across, 175 locations worldwide. I just pulled that up on the website. And basically these are places where you can go in person and receive free mental health care. They have wellness classes, things like that. So cooking classes, yoga, you name it. Basically it is free mental health and mental and emotional health care for cancer patients and their families. So support caregivers are welcome as well. If you're not near one of those locations, there are online options as well. I think we have one more page of resources that Jenny might be able to talk a little more to than I can.
So Triage Cancer, this is legal support. They have all kinds of things in there about work, finding work, losing work, boundaries at work, guidelines at work, responsibilities at work. They have people that can represent you and help you, people that are available from email. I think they even have a chat function. They're amazing. I would encourage you to look into that because there's a lot of questions, I'm sure, after you're diagnosed. What do I do now? And how do I survive? And how do I take care of my family? And so you don't have to walk this road alone. There's lots of layers of support that are available to you.
Thank you for walking us through those, Jenny. And we will return to those at the end of the webinar for the last few minutes. We'll run back through them as well. So just kind of highlights all the things that are available, things that you never knew you needed until you were diagnosed, like the legal support, the caregiver support. I know that folks in the military community are well aware of the burden that our support system can bear when we're deployed and things like that. And cancer is no different, that your support system picks up a lot of that slack and they can burn out too. And it's really important to have those resources to provide them extra support as well. So important to keep those in mind. I think we're now going to enter kind of more of the open conversation part of the webinar. Don't feel by any means like you need to be on camera if you don't want to. For those of us who joined late, this is being recorded, just a reminder. But just kind of wanted to talk about, I think, some of the things in common. Being a veteran, being in the military definitely adds a unique element to cancer, to facing cancer that a lot of folks in other communities don't deal with. A lot of extra challenges, particularly with navigating our healthcare systems. There are some bright spots, I think, when you think about the community that comes along with serving. But with that, I think we can kind of just kick it off and start talking about. I have a few topics written out we can talk through. I'm going to try, like I said, not to moderate too much from here on out. But I guess, some of the challenges in navigating the military health system. I don't know if many other folks on here have dealt with both the VA and, were diagnosed active duty like I was, which was a whole separate thing. So if anyone wants to talk about the med board process, happy to talk about that. Otherwise, we will kind of stick more to VA stuff. But what have been your challenges and what have been the successes you found in navigating the VA system? Does anyone want to kick us off? Michael?
Well, I'm using private insurance. I mean, I have a claim that I had submitted to the VA that obviously it's still pending, and they're waiting on paperwork from my doctors and things like that. But I did have a question I wanted to ask. The last State of the Union, the president came out, he started talking about this, how they're going to be helping veterans more that have cancer and this cancer moon and everything else. It made me start thinking the other day, like, man, I submitted my claim to the VA before they started bringing that stuff up. And I'm just wondering, how does that work moving forward? Like, I mean, I'm still waiting for them to go ahead and give me some kind of a yes, no, hey, screw you, whatever. But how does what they're putting forth today apply for people who put their, their packages in And one of the things I read on there, they said that you had to have had all this stuff diagnosed 10 years after you got off of active duty. I mean, I think you diagnosed until, like 12 years later, and then you do a claim until like 15 years later. So I was trying to figure out how does all that work, or if anybody knows how all that works and what they're going to say or do or what to expect.
Honestly, I wish that I had an answer, but I do not. It is really for the Veteran Benefit Administration. I work on the healthcare side, so I could talk about support and things that we can put in place for you. But do you know there is a virtual claims clinic? I think that would really be helpful to you, a virtual claims clinic. Now, the resource that I have is out of St. Petersburg, Florida. But let me find that and put that in the chat for you, because I think that's going to be really helpful. Also, make sure that you have that ask.va.gov available, but let me look for that really quick, because I think that's probably going to be the least area of resistance for you to move forward with your questions.
Yeah, I think one thing to reiterate that is not wildly clear to somebody who might not work in the VA system is that it is split into those two branches. So we have the VHA, the Veterans Health Administration, and the VBA, the Veterans Benefit Administration. And the VBA is the one who is trudging through the paperwork, dealing with the claims, determining whether you get, approved at some percent of disability pay or something like that, or what you're eligible for. The VHA is responsible for providing the healthcare. So one more complexity of the system is that it's definitely fractured from the inside. As far as the eligibility stuff goes, I'm not sure if this is exactly what you're talking about, but we kind of mentioned it before when we talked about some of the presumptive disability benefits. And what that has to do with is kind of like Agent Orange, where there are certain diagnoses you can get that if you have this diagnosis and you served at X time in X location, or the VA basically is going to presume that it's there, that was the cause of your diagnosis, and that is going to help your claim go through faster and be more pretty much a guaranteed approval for those kinds of specific diagnoses. I think that's where you can go to those that list that we had up, the presumptive disability benefits, where certain burn pit situations, things like that, where we can now prove that military members who were exposed to those conditions are much more likely to have these diagnoses. The VA is stepping up and trying to take better care of those vets. So I think maybe that's what you might have been referring to, Michael. It is a pretty specific list of diagnoses, but for a lot of folks, it has made a difference.
And do you guys have any kind of a list? I know I think we were trying to put something together for for people who are newly diagnosed and still trying to figure out what's going on. I don't think that everybody's necessarily looking for compensation from the VA, but they're looking for some guidance and some help of hey, where do I go for this? What kind of options are available to me? What kind of benefits are actually available to me that I could call? Like I know we talked about earlier, there was some mental health things, and there's some reimbursements for travel, and look, here I am a year into it before somebody told me that the VA takes care of that kind of stuff. And I know there's a lot of veteran nonprofit organizations that are out there, and I've started to find some that actually specify or specifically help with veterans who have cancer or some kind of medical situation like this, where they can kind of take a lot of these questions you have out of your hands and help you get it all lined up. And if you have people on here that are from all over the country, like do you guys have any kind of a list like that of specific, whether it's veteran nonprofits or organizations that are out there that you partner with, and then what kind of options and benefits might be available to especially for a veteran?
So Cancer Care has navigators that can help you through that process. They're not veteran specific. Honestly, I think the best way to get connected as a veteran when you're diagnosed with cancer is to go to your local VA center, whether it's a clinic or the hospital, whatever's near you nationally, and see a veteran service officer, see a social worker, get connected to a primary care team, a PAC team, Those are the things that are going to help you. And then we also have that clinical contact center, 24/7 nurses. They can also reach out to teams on your behalf real time to help you through any, maybe you have a new symptom, maybe it's overwhelming and you need help getting connected. They can do that as well. And I'm going to send you that number.
Yeah, is there a way we could put all this in one, I think you put some in an email before, but all the stuff we're talking about today for everybody else who is on here that might want to, look that stuff up later?
Yeah, we can email all these links to the participants at the end of the webinar.
Because like I said, I mean, I started looking into this, and it's just kind of one of those things that I'm like, okay, there has to be more that's out there that I didn't know about, and I still have not been into the VA to talk to anybody, but hopefully I have an appointment soon, and I'll have something from my claim that was submitted, and we can start going from there. But I know there's people on here who were newly diagnosed and things like that are probably sitting there like I was a year ago going, I have no clue what I'm doing. And the last thing you ever want to Google is cancer anything. So.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question. I apologize about my my daughter in the background. I was diagnosed back in 2020, and the one thing that's my daughter. The one thing that I've been worried about is my family. Okay, so cancer is what cancer is. So there's a chance that I may not be around. I understand that there are parts that the government and the VA is going to take care of, but are there any benefits or not benefits, but like I don't know, social groups or clubs or organizations that my wife can become a part of and stay a part of, support networks that she can be a part of, let's say after I'm gone?
So it sounds like you have a very heavy heart, and I want to first thank you for your transparency and sharing in the difficulty that you're experiencing right now. Thank you for sharing these sacred moments with us, sir. It is an honor to serve you. I would say the caregiver support group, the caregiver support program is the best option on the continuum of care from diagnosis to death. Throughout that, you have social workers and different team members that can assist her with different types of care, and they can help add layers of care and introduce other opportunities for benefits and services. I would also encourage you to look into that that link that is for veterans, dependents, and survivors.
I think outside of VA resources, there's also a lot of communities you can look into. I know that when I was diagnosed, the last thing I wanted to do was go join my local support chapter. I was living fairly rural town by the time I moved for treatment. And the thought of sitting in a group of 7 80-year-olds talking about cancer just did not appeal to me. But that's what pushed me to the Colon Club. It was a group of people much closer to my age going through exactly what I was going through. And whether you have a colorectal cancer diagnosis or something else, there is likely a group like this that exists. There are groups for caregivers. There are local groups, like I mentioned, things like the cancer support communities, which have, actual chapters all over the country, which have, programs for partners, for caregivers, for children as well, that kind of help deal with the family side of dealing with cancer. Like you said, it's more than just you going through this. And it's really important that your family has support as well. So my recommendation is try them out, see if any of them are a good fit. You might find that I tried a few, online cancer support groups that I went to 1 or 2 sessions and it was like, nope, not for me, thanks. But eventually I found a place that I felt like were my people and really helped me through it. And that made a huge difference in my treatment process. So that's my advice from the non-VA side. There are a lot of great nonprofits out there that do sponsor these kinds of services.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
I guess everybody else just a little afraid.
I mean, if anyone has any stories about successes you found dealing with the VA, with TRICARE, with whatever it is that you're dealing with through the military side of the house, or support or anything like that. We'd love to hear those. Or again, questions, you name it. It's an open floor. Jason, were you going to say something?
Sure. So I've had experience with the VA for non-cancer related things that could possibly be associated with that. That's why I'm kind of in limbo right now with where my claim was, what I talked about in the chat. So like a brief background on me, I was diagnosed in stage 4 colorectal cancer in July 2018. And my liver was about 80% covered, and I had a fully blocked sigmoid colon. And I immediately got rushed in, put a stent to open me up. Underwent a lot of chemotherapy, 2Y90 radiotherapies before, and responded pretty well before being told I was still inoperable and chemo for life. I sought out a second opinion through Town, the group I mentioned that I now work for. It's an awesome support community. I found a surgeon, information on a surgeon that I eventually got a second opinion through. Flew out to California, saw Dr. Fong, world-renowned liver specialist. He was able to help me out because I lucked out and one of my Y90s actually damaged my liver, but it damaged it in a way that he does a similar procedure. And I was able to have half my, or my entire right liver lobe removed 2 weeks later and 30 centimeters of colon. I had a reoccurrence, 8 months later in my coccyx, my tailbone. And it required more treatment, a lot of radiation, and then another surgery where I basically a Ken doll now. And I have residuals from that, like a permanent colostomy and everything like that. And so I've been trying to, the timeline I've been following. So I was in the Navy for 5 years, from 2003, 2008. And so when I first got to my duty station was USS Eisenhower. And we were in the middle of a refueling overhaul called an RCOH overhaul in the Newport News shipyards. Everything on the Ike was put in 1970 and 1975. The Navy's admitted that it's all laden with asbestos and all sorts of fun stuff. And I was there for about 2.5 years before we finally deployed. And we were exposed to all sorts of crazy stuff. We had days even with protection on that we just be leaking out, like deck grindings, wall paint, all sorts of stuff from every part of the ship. I started to develop symptoms while I was in. I got put on Zantac, or the equivalent, generic equivalent. Kind of helped with it. I did a fit or a stool test in. They didn't find anything. Then we deployed, and we deployed to the Persian Gulf, in the northern Persian Gulf for 9 months, which is part of the burn pit area. And there was days where the ship I can't describe the smells. They were horrible, all sorts of stuff. So I've got kind of two things. So then I got out of the Navy. I immediately filed a claim for my GERD that I was having. It was severe. And so I got a 10% for that, and another 20% for my back for an unrelated thing during a GQ drill that we did, where I herniated a bunch of discs. And so the VA, they started prescribing me omeprazole, which basically were masking my symptoms for years. And I had a couple other things along the way. They'd look at abdominally, and they couldn't get to it in time before it'd go away, before I could set up appointments. And then I was diagnosed in 2018. My oncologist had said it's been inside of me with that extent for over 10 years, which happens to overlap with my time in service. And a lot of this stuff, it's like, I don't know if my case is unique. And I can't seem to get headway. Ironically, I won't go too far into it, but I got my claim today, and it just said, oh, you filled out the wrong form after all that time waiting. So please submit this for another claim. And during all this, I've had treatment, so I haven't been able to stay on top of it. Luckily, I've been cancer-free for 9 months since my last surgery, though. So I've got a lot of fight in me now to kind of figure out a way to navigate this And I also work for Man Up to Cancer, which is a great men's only organization for support.
Hey, Jason, what kind of initial diagnosis did you have? Because you start talking about the Y90 embolisms, I just had 2 of those done. And I just sent you a thing on Facebook. We could talk offline, but I was just wondering what your original diagnosis was, and just wanted to see if it was anything similar. And, you know, you can help me out with some information, maybe.
Sure, absolutely. I talked about 50 people a day, helping them connect to resources and stuff with Colin Town. I'm a paid employee with them, and I do a lot of work helping people. So yeah, please feel free to reach out to me. I can talk to you about my experience more.
Awesome. Yeah. I sent you a thing on Facebook, so hopefully you'll see if we can talk offline.
Sure.
Yeah, you actually just reminded me of something, Jason, that I wanted to raise. One more resource that I think folks likely don't think about, but is a huge advocate. So I live in DC now, and I spent about 6 months last year working on the Hill for a member of Congress. A lot of what I did was this particular member was really trying to push through some of these presumptive disability things. But the reality is that a lot of those they're looking at are still back to Vietnam era. They have hardly even have the data or looking at anything from the last 20 years yet. But so the first recommendation is reach out to your member of Congress for to push them on that. But B, a member of Congress, every member of Congress has this staff that works in DC that is like their legislative staff, but they also have this whole office in the district that generally works more towards helping constituents navigate federal processes. And a lot of what they do is help veterans with their claims process. The nature is that a lot of times things get stuck in whatever the process is that is very bureaucratic. And regardless of whether you like or hate politics, whether you like or hate your member of Congress, this is what their paid staff exists to do. And most members of Congress love doing that kind of work and are really happy to be the squeaky wheel. They can be an intermediary to the VA, to any of these other agencies, especially if you're just having problems figuring out where to start. They basically have a staff that they can refer you to someone in the VA who is specifically an expert, or their staff can even help guide you through it. They have people who basically specialize, at least the office I worked in, the district office had somebody who pretty much exclusively worked on veterans issues and claims. So definitely a really important resource to think about if you're having issues navigating these systems.
That's great you said that, because I actually, my senator, I went to his website, and it even has an area for a claim number on the privacy form. And my senator happens to be the ranking member for his party on the VA Senate committee, and his office is like 10 minutes away from me. So I'm going to get in touch with him for sure.
Yeah, and definitely I would say, the Senate side may be able to help you, but, they are 2 senators serving a whole state, whereas the House districts are a little smaller and they're able to focus some more resources on those kind of things. So reach out to both.
Sure.
There's no harm in, pulling all the strings and trying to get whoever you can to help you. And yeah, that's one of those huge resources that people don't think about, especially in today's political situation. Nobody wants to think about going there, but there is a whole office of folks that are paid to help with those kind of issues. So make sure you're going for those.
I was going to say also, I remember in the middle of like COVID and everything else, and they had an excuse for everything that was dealing with, claims, and everything was backed up. Nobody was working, blah, blah, blah. I went through like 9 months with a claim that was pending, couldn't get in touch with anybody. I forget who it was I talked to, but they gave me a direct number to the White House. And the amazing thing was, I made 1 phone call, and the next day I had 4 or 5 phone calls from somebody at the VA or somebody at the White House calling to find out what my problem was and why things weren't taken care of. And it was amazing how fast that thing happened. I don't know where that number is, but I'm sure I could find it again if I needed it. If anybody else is on there, I think it's just one of those, I'm going to say backdoor tricks, whatever, but when I found that out, I could not believe the next day when they called me up. I'm like, wow, 9 months. Nobody wants to tell me what's going on. 1 phone call to the White House, and all of a sudden they were jumping all over it. So that stuff is out there. You just got to dig for it sometimes.
I think that kind of touches on, circling back to one of the issues that our community faces is kind of a cultural issue around asking for help, around pride, around wanting to be able to do things ourselves. And I'm curious if anyone else faced challenges with that. I know that for me, particularly with my mental health, it was one that, I was fine until I realized I really wasn't fine, and I needed a lot more help than I could get quickly. And that kind of stuff exists for anyone facing cancer, particularly for veterans. But I think that there is a cultural challenge about, I think that we're ingrained to want to be able to take care of things ourselves. And I think with how complex our systems are with the VA and the VBA and, med boards and TRICARE and you name it, you can't do it on your own. I'm curious if anyone else has experience with that or has anything to share about that.
I mean, I've had a lot of experience with it. When I got diagnosed, I think I lucked out because I live in Dallas now, and there is a very large veteran community that's here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I've done a lot of work in the last few years, probably the last 10 years, working with a lot of those nonprofits, having lost friends in combat and suicide and everything else, and wanted to find a way to help and do whatever I could. And I know this doesn't really apply to everybody. Not everybody can do this, or they may not have it in the area. But when I got diagnosed, I found that a lot of those people that I had met, most of them were all Marines anyway, but most of the veterans that I had met and kind of created this support system community around, all seemed to step up. And whether it was helping us out with things that we needed help with, or the text messages, or showing up and helping with dinner, or taking care of the kids and things like that, it was extremely helpful. Because in the very beginning, my wife and I sat down going, what the hell? Just went from being somebody who was relatively healthy, a few pounds overweight, to you have stage 4 cancer, and it wasn't anything in between of we could do this, we could do that. And Jason, like you said, they straight up told me in the beginning, this is inoperable, incurable. My oncologist didn't like the fact that I told him he had to rewrite that plan because it wasn't going to work for me. But I'm glad that you had mentioned you got another opinion, because I listened to them, and then I went and got into MD Anderson down in Houston, and that's where the Y99 or Y90 radioembolism stuff came from. But that was also, somebody sent me a link to something about that, and I did the research. I'm going to Dana-Farber next month to go speak with a specialist who helped out a friend of mine, getting his VA stuff kind of written up from a doctor who had done a lot of research on burn pits and things like that. Like I said, I know it's not available for everybody, because not everybody has the support system maybe that I do, or the veteran community may not be as big where you're at as it is for me here. But I would suggest looking for those kind of nonprofit organizations that are out there. Get yourself around, like we always say in the military, right? You want to be around like-minded people who they get you, they understand why you are the way you are. This cancer thing is no different. It really isn't. I mean, it sucks, and it is what it is, but I found that just trying to keep a positive attitude, positive mindset, and moving forward in the right direction, and it has helped. And the people that I've met, when I have my boohoo days, I reach out to them, I call them, I text them, whatever, and they've been very helpful. So most of you all have been in the military before. You understand what that brotherhood and stuff is like. It didn't go away just because you're not there anymore. All right, we may have some miles and some distance between us, but I would definitely suggest reaching out to your brothers and your sisters are out there, and just being like, hey, look, man, I'm having one of these days, and I can guarantee you that a majority of them are going to listen to you. And as I tell my friends, man, everybody's always like, you look good. I'm like, well, I want to look good. I go, but you don't see the days where I'm sitting at home on the couch in absolute pain and agony all day long. But that's not something I want to portray to everybody either. But I still do believe that this positive attitude and mindset is one of those things. I got a book somebody gave me. It's called How to Beat Cancer Daily. And I didn't read it because I don't like reading. And I finally decided one day I'm going to go ahead and read this book. And it was like day 6 of the book. And it said something along the lines like, if you think you can beat this, you will beat this. And I was like, and you know what? Damn it. I've been saying this for a year. Now I'm finally seeing it in black and white. And it was just kind of a reaffirmation for myself to be like, okay, yeah, let's go. Let's keep going. And stage 4 to me is a number. The doctor tried to tell me in the beginning, your diagnosis, you're only gonna have so many, and I had to cut them off. I'm like, I don't need a number in my head. I don't need you to tell me this is what I'm gonna have. I'm gonna tell you how we're gonna do things. And in the book they gave me in the beginning was, this is your plan. You're in charge of your own treatment plan. So I know none of us know anything about cancer, and we know nothing about being a doctor. But my suggestion to people all the time is, have the conversation with the doctor and make them break it down to you, Barney style, so that you understand it, but also they understand your plan. And I've got to tell my oncologist a couple times, I'm like, I know you want me coming in here every other week. I have a job, and I have a family, and I have things that I have to do. I can't always do what you want me to do. And they've been a couple times like, well, you don't want to miss an appointment. I'm like, I also don't want to miss the things I'm supposed to be doing with my kids too. So sometimes things have to change. And I just suggest that everybody, if you have the opportunity, you can find some of those groups around you, even for caregivers and stuff like that, because everybody needs to be able to bump their guns and vent a little bit every once in a while. Find those groups, man. Those people are there, and they're the people you know, and they're the people you need to have around you that have the same kind of, they're wired the same way you are. So, hell, if you need somebody to talk to, you can text me or call me or whatever. I mean, I'm not answering 2 o'clock in the morning phone calls anymore, but I can send you some funny motivational videos to try and get you back on track for the right way for the day.
Yeah, love Michael's positivity. I don't want to, I think technically we had till 9 for this, but it seems like things are kind of wrapping up. If anyone else has any questions, please speak up. We're happy to keep this going. Otherwise, we can review those resources one more time and kind of wrap this up. But I'll give a chance for, open floor for a few more minutes in case anyone else wants to speak their mind or say anything, add any resources, questions, anything like that.
I just wanted to say thank you. Thank everyone. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to throw this PowerPoint back on. I'll run through the resources one more time. And yes, thank you, Jason, for sharing those. I might throw the mic to you for a second if you want to just talk quickly about, Man Up to Cancer as well as Colon Town, just real briefly highlight that, and then I'll jump to the slideshow one more time, and then we'll wrap it up.
Sure. Yeah, Colon Town, it's a Facebook. Right now, it's just on Facebook, and it's 120 groups related directly to colorectal cancer. There's under 40, over 50, early onset stuff, military group, men's group, women's group, all sorts of groups. There's 7 people that run it. I'm one of them, and we're all stage 4 patients, minus one caregiver who had a sister who was intellectually disabled, who passed away from stage 4 colorectal cancer, and she runs our liver group, and she's amazing. There's also groups for each stages, and then Man Up to Cancer was founded by a guy, Trevor Maxwell, the whole point of it is to keep men from isolating. It's open heart warrior spirit is the motto, and the whole goal is to get people from self-isolating during a cancer diagnosis, which can lead to bad things, as we all know. So it just encourages men to reach out, speak out, and to not remain silent and isolated, that people are there for them, willing to listen. And there's awesome podcasts on the website. They're doing an in-person meetup in, I think, upstate New York this year. For the first time, they're pairing with Epic Experience out in Colorado for a 10-person meetup where they take them fishing for a week. A lot of good stuff Trevor's doing. I help admin in the group there, and Joe Bullock runs the group, admins the group. He also helps at Colon Town. We just started a Colon Town Junior for those under 18 with colon cancer, which is unfortunate. Not really in the veteran realm there, though, but there's a lot of support for people if you need it. Never hesitate to reach out to me. I can put my email address also in the chat for anyone that wants it.
Great. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and put this slideshow back up. So I will just go ahead and let's go into the slideshow.
One last thing real quick, if that's
yeah.
all right. We also have a second opinion fund that we kind of talked about, second opinions. at Town run through our main nonprofit, Powtown, and it can help provide $500, up to $500 to reimburse people to get second opinions.
Awesome. That's cool. I didn't know that. All right, so I'll run through these quickly. Jenny, I can take it, but if I'm missing anything or absolutely misrepresenting, please correct me or let me know. But so, you know, the VA resources, we have 2 pages worth of these. This first one, the federal benefits for veterans, dependents, and survivors, that is like the bread and butter, the everything. It is a hefty document. It's literally a PDF, but you might have to sift through it, but it's going to have a lot of the information, pretty much everything you need, but it's just understanding what it is saying is the challenging part. VA travel, again, it's going to depend on, it's going to be very situational based, but there are reimbursements depending on, you know, what kind of, you know, income level you're at or what kind of benefits you're receiving, what your eligibility is, but you can get reimbursed for travel. Caregiver support, always, please remember your caregivers. Oftentimes you don't realize they're burning out again until it's too late, just like how we deal with that too. So make sure that while they're taking care of you, you're making sure they're also taking care of themselves. And there are resources for that. Next VA resource, presumptive disability benefits. This is what I spoke of a little bit earlier, but if you want to learn more about which diagnoses are covered, you can do that on this first link, as well as the Agent Orange exposure specific stuff is going to be on that second link. And if you just want to learn a little bit more about what this process means, from what I understand, the exposure ED kind of dives into that a little further to understand kind of what it means, the whole presumptive list thing and how it works. Other support resources, of course, the Colon Club, the sponsor of this webinar, focused on early onset colorectal cancer, provides, you know, we have online support forums. We have the Kimberly Fund, which can provide funds basically specifically for kind of wish fulfillment for families, for kids. And of course, we have our annual colon camp, and, you know, highlighting the advocacy. Really, we're focused on raising awareness for the early onset colorectal cancer. As Jason mentioned, there are a ton of other colorectal specific nonprofits, and you name it, if you're on here and you're not a colorectal cancer patient survivor, there's going to be communities specifically for your type of cancer. There are communities specifically for, you know, young adults under 40, young adults under 30. There is a community out there for you. There may be 10, and you may find that 2 of them you don't feel like you fit in, but maybe there are 3 or 4 that you love, or maybe just 1. So try them out. Don't give up if you go to the first one and find that maybe it's not a great fit. No matter what diagnosis you're facing, there's going to be a community and support for that. Speaking of communities, Cancer Support Community is a great resource. 175 locations, in physical locations, where you can go receive free mental and emotional support, as well as caregivers and kids. There is a lot of programming specifically for just caregivers and families, which is great. And if you're not close to a physical location, there's a lot of online support there as well. Cancer care online.
Real quick,
Sorry,
Cancer Support Community, they provided my wife a free week in LA when I had my surgery at an Airbnb. They're a great community.
Yeah, they have all sorts of programs, again, can help for housing, lodging, for traveling to and from, you know, especially if you have to travel for a major procedure, they can help. They have funds that help provide that. Cancer care is pretty much all online. You know, it's support forums, actual just mental health care. You know, you can talk to a social worker, things like that. Living with cancer, I think similarly, online support. And Triage Cancer for legal support. This is a big one that I think that, like I mentioned earlier, you don't realize that this might be something you need with a cancer diagnosis until you need it. But there is a location you can go and get those resources. So this is by no means an exhaustive list that we've put up here. If we have forgotten an organization that somebody in here is representing, it was not intended as a slight or anything like that. There are so many great organizations, and that was kind of the hope and goal of this webinar is, you know, mainly the focus on the support specifically for veterans, but of course, anyone here looking for support, there's a lot of other places to go to. So with that, I think we're going to wrap it up. If anyone, you know, has any final questions, Bruce, yeah.
I come to you via connection through SWOG, which is an acronym, We are tied at the hip with National Cancer Institute, and we're part of the organization known as the National Clinical Trial Network, NCTN. Okay, I'm a Vietnam vet. I made 3 trips over there. I'm Agent Orange exposed. I had 2 cancers, prostate cancer and chronic lymphocytic leukemia. So my journey gave me 2 100% disability claim findings. And right now the prostate cancer is in remission due to brachytherapy. Chronic lymphocytic leukemia never goes away. And my participation with the SWOG organization at NCI as a community representative for veterans. It took me 3 years to get through the VBA, 3 years to be properly recognized. I've helped 88 veterans, no charge, all pro bono, just on advice based upon my experience to get what they need regardless of theater, age, or combat experience. Okay, my suggestion to you is to look for support groups. Go get a second opinion, a specialist. By law, you're entitled to all of your lab results. They come to you for free, and the most expensive thing of a second opinion are the labs that they do. So don't do them again. Take them from the first time through and take them to your second opinion person, and then put your mental hat on to work for the future. Spoil yourself, as some of you have already displayed, how you're going to live first and enjoy your family and enjoy your life's journey. And currently, my total disability, although the VSOs will tell you there's nothing more than 100%, I'm rated at 180% disabled because I get special monthly compensation, because my one claim is 100% disability because leukemia never goes away. I'm always available. Should you want to contact me later, you have my email address. I look forward to any information you pass out. I have another member here from the same organization. Her name is Carol Siegel. And we're here to help people. I help for the community. We have specialists with all different kinds of actually participating with the disease or are a caregiver. So there's a lot out there for you, and expand your view beyond just the VA to get your advice. Get a team put together and work with that team. Always look for clinical trials. Clinical trials are going on in all cancers every day you wake up. At clinicaltrials.gov or through the NCI avenue to find out what clinical trials are coming for all kinds of cancers. So I can talk to you tomorrow, not just today. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. I actually am going to put a link to that SWOG website. There's the specific website I'm putting in, I think, is a page specifically about helping vets enroll in clinical trials. So thank you for making us aware of that resource, and thanks for joining the call today.
I also I wanted to mention Tricia is. Oh, I'm sorry, Bruce. I didn't mean to cut you off. I was looking.
I wanted to say I'm in California, and my VA is Long Beach VA, although I have had consultations at San Diego VA. So I'm a West Coast guy, but one VA is all VAs, and treatment in one VA is not treatment in another. They're not all the same. And I'm a former Navy flyer like you, Ben.
So I wanted to mention Tricia is on this call also. When I first got diagnosed, I had 2 friends of mine, one that was a double amputee and one that was a single amputee, who had reached out to an organization called Semper Fi Fund. And I had heard of them before, but I wasn't exactly sure what they had done. They reached out to me once some friends of mine had told them what I was going through. And she's on the call and she wanted to say something. They do a million things to try and make your life easier, get you resources that you need, also help with travel and things like that. So I want to give her a couple of seconds, minutes, whatever she wants to go ahead and say what Semper Fi does and how they can help out.
So I am with the nonprofit Semper Fi and America's Fund. I'm here to support Michael there. But oh my gosh, thank you so much for putting this on. I've learned so much. My role in the program is I'm a visiting nurse. We have 18 nurses who cover all 50 states. And we get to come and see you face to face in your home and in your environment and just help you navigate things and find resources and just emotional support too. But if y'all don't mind, I would love to put my email in the chat box. And if you guys, Jason, Bruce, Ben, if y'all could give me your contact information, I would love to call you personally and just chat with you about what you have to offer, because we are seeing so many cancer diagnoses, as y'all know, and it's so hard to navigate this system because there's so much, you just don't know where to start. So I would love to talk to you individually if you would. Thanks, Michael.
Just to let you know, Semper Fi Fund is not just for the Marines. Semper Fi Marines. What's a Marine?
Yeah, hoorah. I thought it was for at first, but I had no idea. And then a buddy of mine from the Army, I go, what are you getting involved with the Semper Fi Fund for? And he told me what they did, and I was like,
it was originally just for Marines, but then the need opened up so much that it's now all branches. So now we've rebranded to Semper Fi and America's Fund. So Marines fall under Semper Fi, America's Fund is everybody else. So.
And as I know you guys have all been told by your doctors stuff for, trying to stay healthy and working out, which sometimes is impossible to do, is one of those things that they want you to keep doing. They want you to be able to keep working out, going for walks, to get some kind of physical activity in. And when I first spoke with Semper Fi, they were like, do you need a bike? Do you need a bed? Do you need weights to work out with? Do you need this? I mean, I was like, I'm not trying to manipulate the system here and take care of, take everything, but this is all amazing things that you guys do, and I think that there's some veterans out there that could really, really benefit from what Semper Fi does. I mean, I know I have, and it's been really helpful for my family, but I think that you guys should, if you guys can all connect and be here to help each other out, it's something that can just keep growing.
Thanks so much.
Anytime.
Thank you for joining us, Tricia. Before we wrap up here, I think Feng wanted to jump on. The president of the Colon Club has, I think she wanted to add one more comment. Feng, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Thank you, everybody, for joining tonight. And this has been a tremendous conversation, and I hope that the resources will help all of you. One thing I did want to note is that on that last link that Ben had, and which we'll share, the legal aid, think beyond just, oh, I need to sue this person or anything like that. Consider the living wills, the advanced directives, all those things that they always ask you before you go into surgery. Do you have this filled out? Those are important documents and things to have in order, just because, we should all have them, cancer or not. So make sure that you have those things filled out. And if you need help, then reach out for that.
Absolutely. Thank you for raising that. And with that, we are at 9 o'clock. And so we're going to wrap up here. I wanted to thank everyone for joining, particularly the Colon Club for hosting. And, everyone, thank you for joining. Hopefully this was useful and will continue to be useful to folks that we can share this recorded link with in the future, and help folks find more resources that will help them through their cancer diagnoses.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here tonight too. Thank you.